So one of the little things we haven't talked about yet is this lambda function. And the lambda really just is a little shortcut that instead of building a method, we just put this instead and say this is the result of the method. And so you see this in coding all the time where we say something like, instead of doing x plus, whoops, let me pick a letter that maybe won't do anything. Q, no. Everything wants to IntelliSense. I, don't do anything. I equals I, don't do anything. I, you're being too helpful.net. I plus 1. Wow. So instead of doing that, we just come up with little things like I++, and that's a shortcut, right? It does exactly the same thing behind the scenes, but it's a shortcut for us to make our life easier as programmers. That's the same idea as the lambda function. So I think one of the best places to look at this is in our controller. We always have this little sequence of code that says something like, you know, we're going to read in an I logger and call it logger, and then we're going to take and create a variable that can be seen by this whole scope of the class, and we're going to set this equal to this. And so it's kind of a, you know, I don't want to say a dumb method, right? But it kind of is. We just declare this variable for a second long enough to put it in here. And so we can, instead of writing it this way, we can write it this way. We could say public home controller I logger home controller logger lambda logger. So what we're saying is what is returned out of this method, what is returned is this. Right? We can do it here with our views if we wanted to. We could say, instead of doing this, we could say public I action result index lambda view. Right? We don't need the return statement. We don't need the braces. We don't put anything. Really what we do is it's an inline function is what we refer to it as. So we're doing it rather than going to a new line and having other code. We're just saying within that function, use the lambda to return the view. That's the result of this code. So we could use this syntax instead of that syntax, and it would work exactly the same. And sometimes you'll see it done that way. And so I want to point it out. This is just saying the result of this index action is to return a view, which in this case is blank, so it'll use the word index to go find the view down in the views folder. All right, so that's the lambda function. It's just a little shortcut. It makes our life a little bit easier as we're typing to just return something right in the statement. Now what we've seen, a place that we've seen this is as we set up the context file, and I don't have one set up right now, is to do something like, say, underscore context is equal to, man, if you do not have stuff set up, it will try to help you. Context, don't do anything for me. Equals. Okay, fine. SQLite context equals. Oh, sorry, other way around. We want to say var, whatever, blah, equals underscore context. And I don't want you to IntelliSense that. There's got to be a little key to do that because it's driving me nuts. Context, whatever the name of the, so in this case, let's say there's a table called all-star fulls dot, and then we've done like, you know, where, and then in parentheses, we say x. Can you sense my frustration? Stop doing that. X equals, X is because I'm using garbage code here that nothing's set up. X, X dot, I don't know what one of the fields are in there. Let's look and see. Player ID equals, and then whatever, you know, for or whatever. So we go and then we need to put that to a list or to an individual record, depending on what we are doing. And so this is, rather than writing out a function to go figure out which field we're ordering by, instead we use that's supposed to be a lambda. We use the lambda to go say, just do it all at once. This is the result of the function. It's going to be x player ID equals 4, which will be passed to the where. And so anyway, the lambda is just a little shortcut instead of writing out a function here where we have to say, braces and return and all that stuff. It's just, it's not a variable. It's a method that's giving us a result. So it almost acts like a variable in the end. This part, we're saying this is the result of the function. And so it almost acts as if it was a variable. And so we see that little shortcut all the time when we don't want to go to all the trouble to create the braces and do the return statement and all that. We can just do it in line with the lambda function. All right, that's lambda. Spencer out.